everyone, and welcome to Mums at the Table, the place where mums and myself discuss a whole range of issues from faith to parenting to health and well-being to kids to everything in between. I'm Mary Ellen, and today I'm joined by Julie,
hi,
Rachel, and Rachel. We have two Rachels today, so if you forget your names, there's no excuse. Well, we all want to be happy, but today we have our resident psychologist, Colette Smart, joining us to discuss whether happiness is the end goal we should really be pursuing or whether it's actually a trap. We'll also be talking about the subliminal and potentially harmful messages of children's books and a brand new trend called Maternity Concierge. It's certainly got me intrigued. All that plus some delicious food from Gia and Olive coming up next. But first, Renee Mauer wrote a challenging and inspirational article for our latest issue of Mums at the Table magazine, where she discusses her struggle with body image and eating disorders and how it continues to affect her self-image into adulthood, and in particular how she communicates with her daughter. I really want to encourage you to read it, and I actually found it was quite a different discussion to what I would usually hear about body image with parenting, because often I think you focus on protecting your kids from the dangers of advertising and things like that. But I want to ask you, because she really focuses on herself, have you ladies struggled with body image yourselves?
Yeah, we all struggle to a certain extent.
Yeah, did you relate to it?
Yeah, like I don't know a woman, I do know some, but not very many who love their body and are really comfortable in their body. And I think it's something a lot of women go through, and having gone through pregnancy, which completely trashed my body, yeah, I feel I've been made acutely aware of it since having kids on how to look at myself and how to perceive myself. And it's a huge challenge because the reality is I don't love my body at all.
Yeah. I think one thing that you said was interesting was about this perception, because she talks about that she had an eating disorder, and it's kind of this difference between the way she saw herself and the way that she actually is. And she said that it's something that, you don't actually get over necessarily. You're always working through those challenges. Yeah, and I think like in raising Jax, like it's funny because we went to the doctor recently and he weighed at like 90 percentile of his, weight. And then I started thinking, if he keeps going on this trajectory, like, is the next time going to be like you're 120% of the, so I think at those times it becomes scary as a parent, because you start thinking like you want your kid to be healthy. How do you have those conversations, know?
I can remember a couple of comments my mother said when I was a teenager, just throwaway lines, but they're still in my head 40 years later. So I think when I had girls, I really tried to make a conscious decision not to say those kinds of things to them. So hopefully I didn't. I tried really not to say I look fat in this or I don't like how I look. But, they get so many other influences that I'm just one influence, and I was really aware of that.
Yeah. But you're a big influence as well, you know what I mean? Like you should be one of the main influences.
Hopefully it was good, but, it's really hard not to put that onto our children sometimes.
I think it's hard too, because I remember doing sports. I remember doing gymnastics when I was a kid, and we did a lot of pyramids and like throwing and things like that. So you'd always hear the little comments about the girls that the guys did want to throw or that they did want to do like the, different exercises.
You talk about sport. I don't know whether this is right or not, but I always felt that if you got girls involved in sport, that they might have a more positive body image, because I had brothers, so I was always really wanting to be active to keep up with them. So I really tried to get my girls involved in sports.
Yeah, I think it's the motivation behind exercise a lot of the time that really helps with just being healthy. And I wanted to ask you ladies, what are some tactics or techniques that you've been able, if you have been able to implement them in your life, I know what a struggle it is, to sort of help your self-perception and your body image? I mean, sport is one.
Yeah.
I'm now choosing, sorry to everyone else around the world, I'm now choosing to wear swimmers instead of board shorts at the beach. Like I want my kids to see me and being comfortable with who I am. It's a massive battle. And I did it when I was away on holidays, because I'm like, these people are never going to see me again. But it was my introduction to going, do you know what? Love it and lump it, I'm here.
That's so awesome.
And I try not to let myself talk to myself in a negative way. Just trying, if I hear myself saying negative things, think about something else. Replace it with something else.
Yeah. And just being as healthy as possible, I think. Like, just thinking about what you're actually doing to your body itself, and not just the way it looks, but the stuff you're putting in it and just what's happening in your body.
I guess mental health is just as important as your physical health.
I think that's where it all starts from, though. Like, if your kids are feeling good about who they are, that sort of thing you can sort of work through and manage. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like you said, you were telling me before, when your child comes to you and asks, do I look good in this? You ask them to smile, and then you say you look lovely. Yeah, I love that, Well, if you enjoyed Renee's story and have a parenting story of your own to share, send it to us at hello@mumsathetable.com. If we choose your parenting story for publication in the magazine, we will send send you a box of children's books, including I Can Only Imagine, a book that encourages kids to dream about heaven, and My Story, a book by a bad speller who loves writing stories. Well, having babies can shift a woman's perception about her body and self-worth, and not always in a positive way. Often women are so busy during pregnancy that they struggle to take care of their bodies and mental health. And many budding entrepreneurs are recognising this need and starting maternity concierge businesses. These services help women with all kinds of tasks, from organising baby showers to just helping around the house. Ladies, would you have used this when you were pregnant, or would you use it in the future?
Absolutely, I would if I could have afforded it.
Yeah, it's really expensive. It's like $60 an hour.
Yeah, it comes
At
down
least.
to money.
Yeah.
Whereas I had a friend who was all over everything, so she was my free version of this, and I would go to her for everything. But it comes down to cost. There are cheaper ways to do things, but you guys are comfortable asking for help?
I wouldn't say I'm comfortable asking for help. Like, I definitely probably struggle.
So would you prefer to pay for something like this or ask a friend for help?
Probably.
I struggle to ask for help. I think I struggle to ask for help, and I don't know why there's this taboo around asking for help. I think it's a personality thing. I don't know.
I think it's also having those friends close enough that you feel like you could ask for that type of favor, because it's actually letting people see your mess. Like, if you're asking for help, that means your house is a mess, like everything's a mess. You're not presenting this perfect package. So you have to let people see and be vulnerable about what's actually going on in your life.
Yeah, totally. Is there a difference though? Because it's $60 an hour. Like, that is not cheap.
No.
Yeah.
Nannies are, $20, $30, $40 an hour. Is there a difference between getting something like this and just getting a nanny and then doing it all yourself? Like, I don't know.
I guess it depends where you want the help, because, a nanny will only sort of do so much, but I think they can still do a lot. But it depends, do you want someone doing your research for something? Do you want, it depends what sort of help you want, I guess.
But you need to dig deep on a nanny, like, before you just drop your kid off with someone. You want to know who you're leaving your kid with,
That's true.
It's easier to get someone to do your cleaning or whatever.
Yeah,
But if you're getting someone in to do some of these jobs, you wouldn't know them at all.
Yeah, but it's different to have them clean your house versus taking care of your kid. Like, if they mess up your floors, then, no big deal.
It was interesting. She was saying in the article that a lot of grandparents are using this service, buying vouchers or paying for hours.
I should send this to my parents at home. Like, hey, look what the grandparents are doing.
Why do you think that is so?
I don't know. We hear about mother guilt. Are we getting grandmother guilt because we're not there and can't help? Or don't want to?
Are people living further away from their families? Like, have we really sort of split our own village?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to ask as well. We have often talked about this on previous shows, Western perspectives where everyone's sort of separated, and Eastern perspectives where there's all like the family comes together.
Yeah.
What are some ways that we can ensure that there is enough support around pregnant and young mums? And
I think being aware of it for starters is a massive thing, and I sort of probably wasn't aware of a lot of these things until I had kids and went through that experience on my own, and therefore it's so much easier to say, do you need help? Can I look after your kids during this moment or whatever?
Yeah.
I found mum friends were a really important support for me. I had no family around. I moved to Sydney, didn't know anybody, so it wasn't until I became friends with other mums that were going through the same thing that I found my greatest support.
But did you ever feel like it was hard to be vulnerable enough with them to ask for that kind of support?
Not really. But once I had one or two really close friends, I think that really helped me through, and we were all going through the same thing. We'd babysit for each other, and neither of us had family in the area. So, they became really good supports.
We're all still searching for that village. It doesn't matter what it looks like, whether it's this maternity concierge or whatever, but we're all still searching and craving that village, aren't we?
I think good on these women for being so entrepreneurial to think of this idea.
But the question is, like, it's such a consumeristic kind of a thing. Like, did we need this in the past? Has it always been a thing? But
I think it just looked different. I think the village looked different in previous times. Like, parents, my parents were working for a long, long time, whereas my grandparents' previous times wouldn't have been working as long, were able to help, lived closer, all those things. So I think it just looked different.
And is there more pressure on mums these days to get the Pinterest-worthy baby shower?
The party or something.
Part of it.
I'm part of the Pinterest fail group, so...
I think most mums, no matter how perfect they are, will still compare themselves to the Look, if you're pregnant or have kids and you'd like to join a community of mums and feel supported, Mums at the Table now has its own closed group on Facebook. Simply visit our Mums at the Table Facebook page and click the tab under the cover photo that says Visit Group. We'd love to see you there, and who knows, one of us ladies might even answer your questions. But for now, we're heading to the kitchen with Gia and Olive, who are making guacamole cream.
Hello everyone, I just love avocado, and today we're an avocado monster. Her and her brother just love avocado. But this cream is a good cream to make for when you've got any Mexican dishes. Do you want to help me make it? Okay, can we put the avocado in here first? So 1 avocado. Check. And we've got cashews. It's only half a cup of cashews, and I've soaked them. You don't have to soak them. If you've got a high-speed blender like I do, you don't have to soak them at all. It makes it creamier. So we'll put the cashews in there.
I wanted to.
Oh, okay. Then you can put the actually we'll put the coriander in last. 3 tablespoons of lime juice or lemon juice, whichever you've got on hand. And we've got half a teaspoon of salt, of any salt that's good. And half a cup of water. You go, girl. There's half a cup of chopped coriander. I'm going to put some of the coriander in there already. We'll wait for the rest because I think it's nice to have some of those deliciousness in there without them being all blended up. So we'll blend that until it's all creamy. So if it's very thick, you can just add a little bit of water just to make it a little runnier. Okay, and that's really creamy and smooth. But now I'm going to add the last few coriander leaves so that they're more whole and just blend them through a touch. That's it. So there you have it. You have a nice avocado guacamole cream, which you can use on sandwiches, which you could use on any Mexican dish. We're going to use this with our enchiladas, our baked enchiladas. You can find the recipe on thetabletv.com. And you can also go to our Facebook page, which is the Table TV Show, and you'll find some of our recipes on there. We have some really good healthy recipes for you and your family. We try to make healthy easy. So please follow us and enjoy all the different recipes.
Well, if bedtime stories are part of your kids' evening ritual, then what we're about to discuss may come as a bit of a surprise. The ABC recently embarked into an investigation into the top 100 best-selling children's books of 2017 and found that they are overwhelmingly male-dominated. Well, I believe that Julie has some of the statistics for us on this. Would you mind just sharing what you found?
Sure. So I read the research and they found that twice as many men were authors as women. So not surprisingly, along with that, twice as many of the lead characters were male as were female. So I guess that goes along with that. But what surprised me was there was 5 times more books that had all male characters as had all female characters. And in children's books, I guess you would expect a lot of them are animals. So they're animals like bears, lions, the more predatory animals were males, whereas the female characters are more chickens and possums and that sort of thing.
Chicken.
Yeah. The other thing that was interesting was when it came to villains, they were boys mainly. 90% of the time the villain characters were male.
Well, I'm not fighting with that one.
Important speaking parts were only female 35% of the time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think that this is actually having a negative impact on kids? I think back to when I was, my parents were reading storybooks to me, and I don't really remember very many of them. But do you think there are subliminal messages that are damaging here?
I didn't think about it a lot. I kind of wish I had now.
And I think that's it. I think it's a subconscious thing, and you subconsciously fall into what you perceive as a normal culture.
Yeah.
So I think it matters, and I think, we talked about this another time, but I'm really intentional about the books I buy for my girls.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not so much as whether it's a male author or a female author, but it's about the book and the character, and I try and buy them a lot of books with strong female characters in them.
Do you find that hard to find?
I haven't found it too hard. I think there are so many books out there. When we hear those numbers, it sort of makes it feel like women are sort of in this minority. There's a lot of female authors out there. There's a lot of, strong female characters out there. So I haven't found it too much of a struggle. Possibly, it is interesting though, when you were reading those stats, I was thinking, Guardian newspaper has said that the majority of readers are female. So you must have a lot of male authors writing to a female audience.
Yeah.
But maybe it's in those early stages of getting boys engaged in reading, because I often hear about this challenge of having boys being engaged and continuing to be engaged in reading. And I think about this idea of what we're talking about. I know it's important. I know someone should have researched it. But as I think about it, I think of more the examples of women that I had around me than I think about books influencing me, because I don't feel any of this. I don't feel any of this less than attitude because of the male characters or people who got speaking parts.
Yeah, I think back to the books, the stories that really influenced me when I was young. We used to have a set of books called My Bible Friend, and the book that I would read over and over was the story of Esther. Love the story of Esther because not only was she beautiful, but unlike all the fairy tales that I read, she was brave, and she was bold, and she was strong, and she did incredible things for her people.
Yeah. Do you think that the books having male characters are a reflection of a male-dominated society, or do you think it's just sort of happenstance, like it's not?
No, I think there's a subconscious there and a conscious there in what's actually happening. Because I guess I'm going to put this on the publishers a little bit because there's pressure from the publishers to get money and get sales, and that's their end goal. So you've got someone like J.K. Rowling out there, who's a female author. She's written to, and her publisher tried to get her to change it and put her name as J.K. as opposed to Jo Kathleen, I think it is, because they didn't think that would be as appealing to the teenage male audience.
Interesting.
So there's definitely some conscious going into this.
Yes, well, I think it's important to have a conversation with your kids about, gender roles and stereotypes, but yeah, it's really interesting. What do you think? Let us know on our Facebook page whether you think gender imbalance in children's books is a problem or not. We'd be interested to hear your opinions. Well, we'll be right back after we get some tips from our resident PT, Alicia.
Hi there, it's Alicia, the table's resident personal trainer, back with the girls to talk about health and fitness stuff. Today, girls, we want to talk about the topic of should we eat before and after our workouts, or what's the go with that? Is it necessary? Is it not? So what are some things you've heard about that?
I always hear people talk about pre-workout and sort of taking substances like protein or like caffeine and stuff like that.
Yep, okay.
I've always wondered how necessary it is.
Yes, yes, and this is the question that I really want to address today, is it necessary for every workout or not, right? Now, if you're only working out for like 15 to 30 minutes and you're really just trying to maintain your health and you're not working towards a specific serious, strength or bodybuilding goal or something like that, to be honest, it's not that necessary, right? Because if you're eating, a protein shake or, like a snack meal half an hour to an hour before, and then you're going with the whole principle of like, I have to have protein again in the hour after my workout, and you've only worked out for like 15 to 30 minutes, the workout's almost redundant, right? Yeah. You almost don't need to. So is there any times where you think it would be necessary to have a snack or have something to eat before a workout?
I'm thinking marathon runners now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you think about that, a marathon runner would be doing long workouts, right? They're not going to just be doing 15 minutes. They're probably working out for minimum 45 to a couple of hours. So in that case, absolutely, because your body's going to be under duress for a longer period of time. You're going to work into a lot of your stores in your body, so you want to be fueling possibly before, during and after if you're a marathon trainer, right? Now,
You should be eating something though, right? Like I see people eating bananas and stuff like that.
Now, I was going to say a time when it is necessary is particularly if you're going to do quite an intense workout, even if it's just 30 to 45 minutes, and particularly if it's in the morning, right? So you haven't eaten breakfast yet. Often I've seen two things happen. Number one, people that don't have anything at all, they come, and have you ever felt sick?
Yeah, I can't eat before I do my exercise, otherwise I feel sick during my exercise.
So this is the thing, if you eat too much too close to it, you can feel sick during it. And then the other thing that can happen is if some people, not all, but if they don't eat anything at all, they get faint within the workout and they actually don't have the energy to do it.
Yeah, my workouts aren't that hard.
Okay, so that is a time when, you know, if you're doing like a 5:30 or 6 a.m. class, you haven't had brekkie yet, having half a banana or maybe some peanut butter on like a rice cracker or something could be something to do just so that you've got a little bit of like extra energy in there. But besides that, the only other time that I would say you should have, you know, your pre-workout, you know, or post-workout snack or protein is if you're actually doing specific strength training, like you're on a program that like a trainer's given you, or you're an experienced trainer where you're doing heavy lifting or you're doing quite intense workouts that go for, you know, minimum 45 minutes, and you do want to refuel after that. But if you're just eating like your healthy regular 3 meals a day, and then you're just doing your maintenance exercise of, you know, half an hour-ish workouts, you don't really need to eat anything else outside of your normal 3 meals.
Is there a specific time frame, like you should eat 30 minutes before a workout or half,
Sure. They do
40?
say that about 60 minutes before a workout, and then within 60 minutes after a workout for when it is necessary to have something, because they reckon that the protein gets absorbed better and is used for recovery better post-workout for that. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. If you're looking for some workouts, come join us on our YouTube channel. We've got plenty of short 10-minute workouts that you can do with us there. See ya.
If you've ever been asked what you want for your children's future, you've inevitably at one time or another responded, "Oh, I just want them to be happy." Well, there's nothing wrong with this, at least on the surface. Joining us now is Colette Smart, our resident psychologist, here to discuss a chapter of her upcoming book, They'll Be Okay, and whether we should value happiness as highly as we do. Colette, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's okay. So I was reading through just a little blurb about this chapter of your book, and I found it absolutely fascinating. And you say in it that happiness shouldn't be our end goal. What do you mean by that? That's blowing my mind. Like, why?
So you pulled out just a little excerpt there. Whenever I run parenting seminars, I actually ask parents that question. I say to them, what do you want for your child? So I actually have kind of this parenting mantra. Parent with your child's future adult in mind. And then I say to parents, what do you want for your child? And please don't say, I want my child to be happy. And then I get these confused looks. Parents look at me and going, well, you're a psychologist. Like, isn't that your job to make our kids happy or make us happy? And actually, no, that's not the end goal. Now, I'm not saying I want your children to be sad. I don't want my children to be sad. But if we teach our children to pursue happiness above all else, we actually rob them of being fully human. I believe the full gamut of emotion is what makes us human. And many of the tough emotions, going through times when we have fears or feeling sad or even angry at injustice, are appropriate. And so if we're teaching children just pursue happiness above all else, they miss out on learning to become resilient, learning to thrive. It's in the tougher, as much as we don't like to hear it, it's in those tough times that we actually build character, not through the times when we're always happy.
So how should parents be framing that answer then? Like, what should they be wanting for their child?
So I say, this is when I say, think of your child's character. What are you hoping for your child's character? And then they start to dream of things, and so not, career prospects or, having a big house. They will start to say things like, well, I want my child to learn perseverance. They start to look at their value system. I want my child to know that even though things are hard, there's certain things they can do to push through those things. And even anger. I mean, sometimes we think being angry is always wrong. Now, there's times when we be angry at things that are not just. That's appropriate. But I always then say to parents, it's how we teach our children and ourselves. How do we respond when we're angry? It's not okay if you're angry to lash out at your sister and hurt her. So we start to brainstorm with our children what to do. I also say then, particularly in times of anger, don't try and deal with the anger in the heat of the moment. Your child's not going to hear anything at that point. It's actually just letting them get through that emotion. And it's not easy because we react, but it's afterwards we say, how could you have done that better? And how can you express your anger in safe ways that aren't hurtful or harmful to others or unkind? I think those are the conversations.
So is this more about kids then sort of learning to be comfortable with who they are and responding appropriately?
Yes, and not being afraid. Also, let me just say on anger, I think it's one of the emotions that we think or we allow as the most appropriate emotion for boys. Boys often express their sadness through anger, their disappointment through anger. We actually need to also ask, what's going on for you underneath? What happened before you felt angry? Were you embarrassed? Did you feel let down? And I think letting them become comfortable with who they are, not being afraid to feel sad or fearful or stressed. We're always afraid to let our children feel stressed. Some forms of stress actually help us perform better.
Absolutely.
I've noticed with some children, they seem to go up and down, emotionally. Some children more even. I guess adults are the same.
Yes.
if you've got a child that seems to go up really easily, then down really easily, how do you cope with that as a parent? How do you help them with dealing with that sort of emotional roller coaster?
Look,
which is their personality.
Yeah, and I think you touched on that some adults are like that. I think we expect more from our children than we do ourselves. And I'm speaking to myself. We often push them in areas, and some children's personalities are much more up and down. It's helping them slowly learn how to manage that. And that's where I always keep coming back to, your emotions aren't wrong. It's how you express them and how you might be hurting others. So having family, arguments, some families are fiery. My family's loud. Let me just put it out. But
I hear you.
It's in your loudness that, are you hurting or lashing out? Are you attacking one of your siblings or your parents' character or personality? So it's okay to have the roller coaster, but always thinking about others is important. And so if we teach our children chase happiness at all costs, some ways it can become selfish because they pursue anything that makes me feel happy in this moment, and you forget about others. And we need to also remember, unpacking the dishwasher is not on my bucket list. And then we expect our children to jump for joy when we ask them to unpack the dishwasher. So it's, kind of...
Not a jump for joy, but boy, I'd love it if they didn't whinge as much.
But we whinge in our own heads. And so, but even in those times when unpacking the dishwasher is unpleasant or putting on the washing is unpleasant, those things build character. I don't feel excited going to work on a pouring rainy day, ending up at work with wet shoes. I'd rather sit in my bed snuggling up with another coffee and Netflix, to be honest. Those things, that would make me happy in that moment.
So saying, I'll just do it myself is probably not the right response.
No, because our children don't learn to persevere. So looking at your child's future adult, not rescuing them all the time so that they can feel happy in this moment, following through if they have to have consequences at school, at home, not rescuing them to produce short-term happiness, looking at our child's future character, because sometimes the unpleasant emotions are just as important.
So just as a quick summary to recap, what are the main things that we should be teaching our children to pursue? What are the main values that you think are really good to teach your children?
I think every family will have what they see as important values, but it's allowing our children or encouraging them to understand that all of their emotions are valid, and being happy all of the time is not the end goal. It's all right to feel sad, it's all right to feel angry, it's all right to feel stressed, and letting them verbalize that, not feeling like we have to solve it all the time, sometimes just listening.
Thank you so much, Colette, for joining us. It was very interesting. Thank you
for having me.
Well, if you'd like more nuggets of wisdom from Colette, the ladies, or any of our other amazing guests, please visit mumsathetable.com or our Facebook page. We'd love to see you next time. Until then, goodbye and God bless. And remember, there's always room for you at the table.